Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Breakfast with Sergio. In this episode, I have a guest, Danila Rumold. She's joining us from New Mexico, and we're going to talk about how to condition your home, your space, as your art studio. Right. Hello, Danila. Welcome back. Welcome to Breakfast with Sergio. How are you today?
I'm great, thanks. How are you?
I am doing great. I want to say welcome to Breakfast with Sergio. We're going to talk about how you have conditioned, particularly your garage space, into the ideal studio. You know, it's something that is specifically made to fit the type of work that you do. And I think this is an episode that's going to be pretty awesome because, as you know, we have been doing a series on and off on artists in their studios. And I'm really interested on, you know, how artists work. So I think you're going to give us some great ideas, which perhaps for some artists watching today will also be some great ideas of things that they can do themselves, you know, to condition their spaces into their ideal studio. So before we talk about that, the first question is, what do you have for breakfast today?
Well, Sergio, today and every morning I start my day with a green juice. It's made of apples, celery, asparagus, spinach, and mint, and lemon, the most important.
Oh, that is good. That is good. Today I have, as you guys all know, I don't drink coffee, but this is decaf. I like decaf, so that's what I have. And I got a little bit of sugar today, so that's what's cooking for me today. Now, have you tried a spirulina in your juicing?
I haven't tried it, but I know it's supposed to be really good for you.
It's very good. You should try it. I think it will be a kind of a nice addition to your green tea. I drink spirulina every morning on my tea, and it's great. Has a lot of benefits. Anyway, so let's talk about your studio. So tell us, you know, how did you come up with the idea of conditioning your garage into, you know, your ideal studio?
Well, to begin with, I needed a studio space close to home because I have two small children, so I needed to be able to get into the studio when I had a moment. And so the garage was the most closest and available space. So I had it a little bit remodeled before it became my studio. I had it insulated so that it could, you know, be warm or cool depending on the season. And I cut a few windows over here that you see for some natural light to let that in. And then I put in some track lighting above. And so I'm able to sort of get different light conditions depending on the time of the day that I'm working. So that was the first step. The second, and also an important thing to mention, is that it has a door so I can keep people out of it so that I can work.
Does the door lead you to your home?
It is. It's in front of our home. It's connected. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great.
So those were sort of that's sort of the logistics of it. And let's see, some other things that I did. So I work large scale, and since I've moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico about 3 years ago, I really shifted my art practice from oil painting to working on paper exclusively and using natural materials. And so all the work that you see around me is all made of paper. And so I work both on, I have a large table that I work on. I also use floor space, and then sometimes I use the wall space. So I rotate around the different surfaces that I'm working depending on sort of the size of the piece. And I often work, since they're large and made of paper, really it's a collage technique. So I work in sections. So I take smaller parts and then I assemble them, most often on the floor, and then they go on the wall, and then I kind of work back into them. So that's sort of.
So like the piece that's hanging behind you, that really tall piece. So where does it hang from? Did you create like a hanging system on the ceiling?
Yeah. So that's a good question. So that's sort of the most. That's been the most helpful element in the studio to help me work large. Basically, what I did is I went and got. I think they're like curtain rods from Home Depot. And then I just hang them on hooks. And then the work is either hung by a dowel or I hang them on a cord that is suspended by, what is it called? The shower curtain.
Okay. So, so I assume that allows you to move and slide the work from side to side.
Yes, that's right. And so I'm able to stack a number of pieces and just push them back. And then I'm able to retain the sort of the space of the studio.
Wow, that's very nice. So pretty much they are, back to back, all pushed to the side, but at any given moment, you can also move them. And wow, that is very cool. That is.
Yeah.
Now, how long did it take you, the whole process of thinking about the idea, like actually starting moving things around to actually have it where you are happy with it?
Well, I guess I move things around a lot. Another important element is that I really only keep in my studio what I need in the moment. So I'm very intentional about what I keep in my space. And then it allows me to have more space to move around and work around. And usually within a series, I might be working on multiple pieces, but I'll generally try and focus on one at a time and keep the others pushed back. And so, I think throughout a period of working within a series, I'm rotating materials in and out of the space depending on which piece I'm working on and what the materials I need. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And so because you're in New Mexico, so it gets hot. How do you keep it cool? Is it connected to your home air conditioning, or do you have an external air conditioning?
Yeah, I have an external air conditioning system that I use when it gets really hot. Like right now, later in the day, it'll be about 100 degrees, and I would certainly need that machine in here. Right. And then in the winter, I just have a really small heating system that works quite well.
No, that is awesome. I love that idea. And so tell me, how's your, in your case, your work schedule like? What do you see as a benefit of being able to just walk into your home studio, but at the same time, it's at home, but at the same time is isolated from the home, which I think is kind of the great advantages, because when you work at home, sometimes you have the distractions of, the phone, or you remember a chore that you have to do, or, the dishes I forgot to turn, even though you are still within the home property, but there's like that enclosure, like that little haven, right, for the artist where art happens. So tell me a little bit about, that transition, which is a lot more, it's a lot more of a psychological transition of walking from home to your studio, even though you're in the same property.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I guess that's what I was saying earlier about the doors, the most important element, if anything, sort of that threshold between domestic life and then the, art practice. And so I'm really intentional about when I walk in here that my phone is not in the studio, my computer is not in the studio, and that I'm here just working. And for a while, I actually had a sign up on the outside of my door with my working hours so that people knew that I was actually in here working.
Like on the radio, on air. Right?
Yeah. So those kinds of structures really help. And I also I time block. And so I know, what are the hours that I'm going to be working, and I'm going to be in here. And at this moment in time, it's usually when my kids are either at school or in the summertime at camp. And so those are the hours that I work. I also sometimes get up. My general sort of routine is I wake up at 5:30, but I do like to get up and go to yoga before at 6:30 to 7:30. Then I come back, get the kids ready, and then so by 9 o'clock, I'm usually working until about noon. And then in the evenings again, I try and get in a couple more hours.
Yeah. Well, that is fabulous. And thank you so much for sharing your sanctuary, your space there, which is beautiful. And I'm so happy that we connected through LinkedIn, which is right. It's what I love about social media, all the different ways in which we can connect with artists. And when I saw some pictures of your studio, I thought that was fascinating. Took us a little while to get connected, but I'm so happy that we did. And,
Me too.
So what would you say to an artist who right now is like in the process of how can I make it work in my home? A couple of tips that kind of help you to make that move and say, okay, I'm going to make this my corner.
Yeah. Well, if you're working inside the house and you have other people living around you, just really making sure that you have something that you can leave out, that you're not always having to unpack. So some sort of workspace, a table or something that's there, and really having a conversation with folks in your life that this is your workspace and that it should be respected. I really feel like whether it's a physical boundary or a psychological one, it's that people understand that this is a place of work. and really having your materials at hand and keeping it really limited and being specific about what are you using. And, I understand that, as artists, we experiment a lot. And so if you can possibly find a place where you have some storage outside of the actual workspace, that can be helpful so that you can go sort of get what you need and come back and so forth.
Awesome. Super. I love it. Thank you so much, Danila. So where can we find you on Instagram, social media, everywhere else?
On Instagram, I'm Danila.Rumold, and on Facebook, I'm DanilaRumold.com or Danila Rumold, and then my website is DanilaRumold.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being in Breakfast with Sergio. Super happy. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank all my friends. Please share this episode with all your friends. You never know when an episode is going to be the thing that's going to make that person's day or idea like, oh, why didn't I think about this, right? So I think, Danila, you have given us a lot of food for thought here on how we can condition our living spaces also into working space. So thanks for watching, my friends. We'll see you in the next episode of Breakfast with Sergio. Goodbye.